NFL free agency kicks off Monday morning, but we could see the New York Giants potentially sign one of these pass rushers before them because Jonathan Allen, Harold Landry, and Javon Hargrave have all been released. And since that happened, they can sign anywhere at any time. And if they sign over the weekend, we're going to be breaking it down on the channel. And that's why you subscribe. And that's why you have your notifications turned on. I don't want you to miss anything next week. We're going to be breaking everything the Giants do down and making sure you guys stay up to date. We'll also be live covering all of NFL free agency Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And I want to see you there. So subscribe and turn your notifications on. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. We're going to talk about Jonathan Allen. We'll then talk about Harold Landry as he has a connection with Shane Bowen. And then we'll talk Javon Hargrave as a potential target for the New York Giants. Let's start with Allen, a player that was once one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. He has been released by Washington. And Jordan Renan, ESPN beat reporter that covers the Giants, he says they are monitoring the former Pro Bowler when it comes to signing him in free agency. The full quote that Renan had was this: when it comes to the defensive line for the Giants, depth, depth, and more depth. The Giants have to find a way to stop the run better after 2 straight seasons of struggles. This is why it seems unlikely Raheem Nunez-Roches gets released to save $3.5 million. It will cost the same around him. It's cost the same about to find an equitable replacement. Instead, the most likely solution is the Giants add similar rotational linemen rather than more expensive options, even though they are monitoring what happens with Washington's Jonathan Allen, who could get traded or released, and he ended up getting released. Other players to watch, such as Tier Tart, James Lynch, DeMarcus Walker, and my guy, Poona Ford, who are all on the New York Giants radar. Jonathan Allen, at 30 years old, he could still play, but his best days are behind him when it does come to the National Football League. And I think Allen, at the end of the day, makes a lot of sense for the New York Giants because I don't think he's going to be at the top of the market when it comes to getting big-time money. And a player that maybe is not what he once was, but still a damn good football player that's not going to command, in my opinion, major dollars. Maybe he does and I'm wrong. That should be right in the sweet spot for the New York Football Giants. 5.5 sacks last year, 10 tackles for loss, 53 tackles. That was actually in 2023. He had some injuries this year. This is what I'm trying to say. If the Giants are looking to spend big at corner, if the Giants are looking to spend big at quarterback while having needs at starting right guard, it makes sense to value shop at the defensive tackle position. Because if you were able to get a value defensive tackle and then you take the best DT at pick 34, you're adding 2 players that can play. And if you have Dexter Lawrence, Jonathan Allen, pick 34 as a D tackle, and you have Raheem Nunez-Roches, that is already a much better and significantly deeper defensive tackle position than you have had in a long, long time. Allen, though, did miss 9 games this past year. Played in 8 games, coming off an injury. I got to talk to my guy, Jack Sperry, who is the host of the Washington Commanders Report here at Chat Sports. I said, is Jonathan Allen washed? And he said, not really. He played better down the stretch of the year, but he is coming off a pec injury as well, so that's something to monitor. This is a guy, though, that from the interior defensive line spot, he can get after the quarterback. 9 sacks in 2021, 7.5 in 2022, 5.5 back in 2023, and in 8 games this year, he had 3 sacks. And he is someone that offensive lines and offensive line coaches would have to game plan for and not be able to load up on Dexter Lawrence. And we know that Shane Bowen likes to bring pressure with just 4 rushers. And if you could put Burns, Thibodeaux, Allen, and Dexter Lawrence, and if Allen can get back to the form of 49 pressures, 47 pressures, maybe even that 67 pressure total, playing next to Lawrence, Burns, and Thibodeaux, that's going to take your defensive line to really good, to one of the best in the NFL. And if the Giants want to win games this year, they need to become dominant at something. And I think the best position they could do that at is the defensive line. Other D tackles that we're going to be looking at in free agency, Javon Hargrave, we'll talk about him in a little bit. I think Milton Williams would be a lot of fun. We've talked about him on the channel. He might be a little bit too expensive. B.J. Hill, once a Giant, always a Giant. I would keep your eyes on him. Poona Ford, I think, is one of the better run-stopping defensive tackles in the NFL. Allen, not that good at run-stopping anymore, better at pass rushing. I'd keep your eyes on Tart and Jones as well. I do think the Giants sign, at minimum, one defensive tackle that they expect to be a heavy rotational player next season. Maybe they look to the edge spot as well, with Harold Landry being released by the Tennessee Titans. Landry is a player that's had multiple seasons of double-digit sacks, and he's a guy that played really good football under Shane Bowen when he was the defensive coordinator with the Titans. And now entering year 2 as the DC for the Giants, maybe he's looking to bring somebody to this team that has some familiarity with that system. You could also see Harold Landry look to go play with the New England Patriots, with Vrabel now becoming their head coach. But just at 28 years old, 9 sacks last year, I don't mind bringing this guy in, especially with the rumors that maybe the New York Giants are shopping a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau. Don't know how true those are. But as my dad would always tell me watching the Giants growing up, you could never, ever have too many pass rushers. Ask Tom Brady about that. This is a guy that can get after the quarterback. And the more players, like, football's simple. Get a quarterback, protect your quarterback, and then get after their quarterback. Landry probably looking for a full-time starting role, and he would be an edge 3 here. But, man, it would be nice to have another guy outside of Thibodeau and Burns that's had great success in this league. 3 years in a row, more than 9 sacks. He could do it. And you need more guys on third down and money downs in the second half that can do it. 30 pressures last year for Landry, 47 the year prior, 64, 51, and 54. He could still play. And I think he makes some sense to the Giants. The connection with Bowen, I expect them to at least kick the tires and see what the market will be for the 28-year-old pass rusher. The question becomes, how much money do the Giants want to allocate to edge 3? They're going to have to make a big-time decision here very soon on Kayvon Thibodeau's 5th-year option. They're already paying Brian Burns a lot of money. And when you talk about Harold Landry as your edge 3, you're going to compare him to a guy like Azeez Ojulari, who was on your football team the past couple of years after being a second-round pick out of Georgia. He's an unrestricted free agent. You elected to keep him at the trade deadline and prioritize the rest of the season. I'd like to prioritize bringing him back. And if you let him walk, you need to go out and get another edge, because Kayvon Thibodeau has had some injury issues, and Burns was, even though he played almost every game, I think he did play every game, he was kind of banged up. And you don't only want to have 2 guys that could put their hand in the dirt and win one-on-one pass rush sets. Harold Landry, he'd give you another weapon to use. There is only so much money to go around. We think the Giants are going to go out and pay a quarterback. We've heard the Giants want to go out and get a starting right guard. There's been a lot of reports about them paying a top-flight corner. I don't understand, or I don't really know, unless Joe Schoen's going to go crazy with the void years, which he has not, and backloading contracts, which maybe he should a little bit. I don't know how you're going to be able to spend big at DT, edge 3, corner, right guard, and quarterback. And if you get a certain quarterback, you're probably also going to sign a certain wide receiver. I think you know who I'm talking about. Javon Hargrave, the other player I wanted to talk about on today's show. When you talk about Allen and Hargrave, Hargrave is someone that would be a much cheaper option. At 32 years old, he could still play, but he didn't play all that much this past year, only 3 games because of injury. But it's not too far removed from having 3 straight seasons of more than 7 sacks from that interior defensive line position. This is a guy that was a huge piece of that Philadelphia Eagles defense. Then he got to the San Francisco 49ers, played well, but then he was snake bitten by the injury bug. And Hargrave would bring another player that could get after the quarterback. And I think it would be maybe the smartest idea of all the players we've talked about to go out and sign Hargrave. He's got familiarity with the NFC East, and he would be a good depth piece and a rotational piece, and he's not going to break your wallet. You can go out and you can get a guy like Hargrave. And then when you get on the clock at pick 34, you're on the clock at pick 65, you prioritize a defensive tackle. And you can roll into the year with a defensive tackle rotation of Hargrave, Lawrence, a rookie, and Raheem Nunez-Roches, and maybe you bring in another guy. Sign a player that the Giants have to sign a player at DT that they're comfortable with starting and playing a lot. And then you make it a priority to add one in the draft on day 2 at the defensive tackle position. If you want to spend a little bit bigger, you go after a guy like Jonathan Allen. If you want a bargain shop, you can go after someone like Javon Hargrave. And if you just want another edge that can get after the quarterback that has ties to your DC, you can go out and sign a guy like Harold Landry. I love talking about all these players. Free agency is one of my favorite parts of the season, especially considering the New York Giants don't win a lot of games, and it's a lot more fun, and you can create wins in your mind in free agency. And I'm just ready on Monday, maybe tomorrow, to see what football players Joe Schoen's going to add to this team and hopefully bring us some W's. Make sure you've hit that thumbs up icon and you're following me on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on IG @MarshallGreen_. Hit me up, and let's go Big Blue.